College and pro basketball and training the next crop of elite athletes has taken today's guest all over the world. Joining me now is Sara Dufner. Sara, your basketball career and life has taken you pretty much everywhere, all over the world, and now you're back here in Minot. First, at the very start, playing at Wayzata High School, what was just the climate of the competition out there in the maybe like close to the big city area of the Twin Cities in Minnesota? I'm thinking like the closest relation I have is Annika Stewart going from Bishop Ryan to Wayzata, and now she's down at Nebraska. So obviously, maybe you can get noticed there. What was it like playing down at Wayzata?
Wayzata actually had a lot of talent. The cities where we played with, the year I graduated, to give you an example, there were, I think 41 that went to play college my year of girls, and 17 went Division I. So when you're playing around in Minnesota, just not only the cities, but of course in the rural areas, but in the Wayzata, you get noticed, especially playing in the AAU, traveling basketball. Coaches see you everywhere, but I'll tell you, it was huge. One of the first years it started, I was 14, and it just blew up from there. I played all the girls that were on my team, all went Division I. We played together for a few years and had a lot of success.
You say that you can get noticed around there, but there's one thing about someone seeing your game and you kind of really standing out. How were you able to do that to have a college career after that?
Being a team player. The only thing that I actually did was be a team player when I played. I never had a play for me. My idol was Dennis Rodman, of all people I know, but when he played with the Detroit Pistons, he literally was who I idolized and followed. And when you have that extra step of the extra effort, and all I wanted to do was rebound, and then I rebounded and I averaged 27 points a game, and it just tripled from there. They want workers like that because you don't want to always be the all-star. And I wasn't always the all-star. I wanted to be more so the workhorse when I played, and that was more important to me.
How big was that being at the college level you competed at with Wisconsin, Green Bay, and St. Cloud State? St. Cloud's a team that obviously Minot State fans see a lot of.
Right now they're playing. I know a lot of the people out in St. Cloud are still around and coaching. Some of my friends that played are coaching there now. So it's kind of fun to see them going from Green Bay and having Green Bay. I think there was 5 of us my freshman year from Minnesota to go to Green Bay, which is really exciting because we knew each other from the All-Star games and playing against each other. And 4 of us were 6'4" going in, and 1 was 6 feet. So she had a really big team at Green Bay that year where we went to the NCAA tournament. We had a lot of fun. And but then going to St. Cloud, where I was with all of my Minnesota friends when I played back in high school, I knew a lot of them as well. So it was kind of like coming back to home.
What were the first steps like of trying to find like your pro basketball path right out of school?
I had an agent contact me right away. When I came out of college, I had a phone call, and they were just wanting me to go to some of the WNBA tryouts, and so they set that up, and I went to a Detroit one, I went to a Minnesota one, and the Detroit one ended up really good for me.
Did it really seem like it was going to be kind of regional from the start, the way like they were scouting you out, or were there more opportunities like maybe within you and your teammates going further out than Detroit and Minnesota at all?
Well, honestly, my number one goal wasn't to play in the WNBA. That was the first year they were going. And I really wanted to play in Europe because you might as well go to Europe and travel for free. You live there for free, you get paid, and you might as well see the world. You only live once. And how many times can people say that they went to Europe? And I got to live there for 4 years. So my stint with the WNBA was really small because I really wanted to play in Europe. The opportunity was huge, and it was there, and you got paid more.
Before I dive into your European basketball experience, I did want to touch on that time that you had with the Detroit Shock. And the coach that you had there was one of the bad boy buddies of your favorite player, Dennis Rodman, Bill Laimbeer. He comes across not only in The Last Dance, but pretty much every time I saw him when he was a coach in the WNBA. He seemed like a pretty tough dude. What was it like being coached by him?
Truthfully, straightforward. Tells you how it is, tells you what he wants. Like any coach, he was really good. He was really successful. Really liked him. We were the same personality, but it just wasn't the right fit for me. I wanted to get out. I wanted to do things, and not that the playing there was anything bad. My heart was set for Europe.
Yeah, and the European stops that you made, by the way, like I think Detroit's going between like Tulsa and Dallas, and that's been one of the franchises that's had to bounce around in the WNBA. That might have been tricky too as
Yep.
time went by. But you got to go and enjoy being in Germany, Holland, Greece. Obviously, when you go to all these different countries in Europe, they're much closer than what we think of like U.S. states at some points, but there can be like a little flavor for each one. So I'm just wondering, living and playing there, what were like some of the best times that you had looking back on it?
Looking back, truthfully, it was getting to know the teammates and having them introduce you to their culture and seeing your first surprises of what their culture was like sometimes, and just really getting to know. Thank God for Facebook, because I got to still be friends with them. I still get to talk to them through the Facebook Messenger, see them on there. So, and the other good part is my friends, they were not all from Germany or Holland. They brought other Europeans in. So some were actually from Australia. Some I got to play with other Americans. So we're all friends. Those are the best memories of the people that we got to meet. And it wasn't on the court, it was off the court, having them welcome you and hear stories and how you got to be a part of it and experience. And they would take you places, and it's more so the memories of that and seeing Europe like you want to see.
What were like the sites that you got to see, maybe a little bit too?
Especially in Germany with all the Holocaust. We went through a lot of that, because right before I went there, I got to study that a little bit. And so I had like 5 or 6 places that I really wanted to see down in Poland, and we would go all over the place, and they would take me to some of the places and show me the tours. That was the most educational that I had. Them talking about it, talking about how they view that era comparative to how do we view it and how we study it. So that was my biggest educational move.
Yeah, because I did an exchange trip actually to Germany when I was in high school, and we went to the Buchenwald camp, and that was like a really powerful experience about what happened right there where you're standing at and all that stuff. And I'm jealous of being in Greece too. I mean, obviously we got to wait a little while right now, but my family's always thought about maybe doing like a Mediterranean like sightsee like cruise outlet and stuff like that.
Yep.
So it sounded like you had an amazing time over there. I think you had a good enough of an idea of what the WNBA as it started had to offer, and then obviously what you had overseas. When you compare the two, what's kind of like the similarity and difference, and then like the better or worse of each one when you look WNBA on one hand and being in Europe on the other?
Well, usually at the top level for the European WNBA, most of the WNBA players come and play over there because it's a 9-month season. So when you're playing over there, you're playing against the top talent from the United States too. So going back and forth, because the WNBA is only a 3-month challenge here, over the summer. So the similarities are pretty much, except for the wide lane, they play the same. It's a fast-paced game. You're really running. We had a lot of fans. That's a big change. Now the WNBA in America is getting better, of course, but back when I played, there were maybe 5 people in the stands. But now it's kind of, you look at it and you go, wow, they have a lot of people. And in Europe, it's been supported this whole time. We always had a crowd. There were always people there. And actually other Americans, like, you meet all these other Americans that are over there because you're always craving another American to speak English with. You don't have to have a translator. We always had translators with us. You're getting to meet all these people. The biggest thing over there was McDonald's would deliver, and all these fast food places would deliver on mopeds. Nice. So we'd always get fast food they would always deliver food to you. So, now with the corona going on, everything's being delivered, but I said, Europe was even doing that a long time ago.
Yeah, and so like there was, when I was in high school, you could even get beer at McDonald's, but nobody tried that.
Yes.
At least.
Yeah, you could get beer there. I was like, oh my goodness.
I'm not trying to out certain kids like 10, 12 years later, but there were some kids that had some opportunities when I was over in Germany to get to drinking when they were 14 or whatever.
Yep.
But
they were in the bar with me at 14. Put it that way.
Yeah, they're busting and doing everything else. So
I know.
do you think that the WNBA, maybe from the outset and as the years have gone by, kind of like always had that in mind because that they would be against the European leagues just on calendar alone, and there hasn't been a more of a season made out of the league yet?
The WNBA, I'm actually really proud of them because at first, people thought it was more, geared towards honestly lesbians. Like there was always, that thing with just like other sports, women high up, they must be more manly or, and they tried to go against that, that portrayal because that wasn't true. And WNBA really started to become family orientated and it was a lot more fundamental and it was really enjoyable to watch. And WNBA really has pushed for family, for the fundamentals, and I've been impressed from when I started to now on how they have really made it more of a family going out, watching a really good fundamental basketball where they play offense and defense. And I mean, it's fun to watch.
Where does the WNBA need to continue to grow in order to get a comparable popularity to like the European leagues? It looks so solid based on what you're saying overseas, enough for players to want to go elsewhere in the WNBA offseason. Even now, if you hear about a girl that wants to do like med school, she'll do that over the WNBA. How does the league make an even further move forward, even though it's been there for years?
Well, the only thing that I say about any professional sport is that you can only play it for so long. Going through college, I mean, I look at myself now and my knees hurt, my back hurts. It's what did you do preventative at a younger age, when you're weightlifting or you're doing sports performance training? How can you prevent it when you get to be your 30s and 40s and how to hurt? And some people don't want to hurt when they're older. They don't want to go to that next stage because they did put so much time into basketball. So it all depends upon the different female, on the different athlete across the board. Because right now, it's for all of their choice. And what do they want to do in life? Is it okay? If your body hurts later on in life. Right now, a lot of my friends that played college basketball, they feel the same way. And, I played 5 or 6 more years after. But, it all depends on how your body feels.
That translates a little bit to what you're up to now. But first, how does a basketball player that's been everywhere end up in Minot to begin with?
You can thank Sheila Green Girding for that one. She recruited, when I got back, I tore my Achilles tendon. And so a person that I knew really well played for the Vikings. So I flew over and had the Vikings trainer surgeon actually fix my Achilles. So they fixed my Achilles and I did everything, all my physical therapy in Minneapolis, where I'm from. And Sheila just called me and said, hey, I heard you're in town. And I came out to see Minot and see how it was. I've never been to Minot, of course. And just honestly, I met my husband here. So 3 months after living here, I met my husband, and yeah, I'm still here.
So how did you know Sheila to begin with? Even before that, would you say like she knew that you were in town?
Just a small world. She played basketball too. She played basketball overseas, and just a small world. People know, people talk, and then I knew I was starting to look for because I knew I wouldn't play anymore because I had a spaghetti tear, not a roll-up tear on my Achilles, so I'd never play again. And so I started looking for jobs, and then I sent out and I just said, "Hey, I'm around." And so she called and said, "Yep, you are here." So we just kind of bonded from there.
Why did you want to make a career out of fitness after your athletic career? You kind of touched a little bit on just what it takes preventatively to not have a terrible thing happen down the road. Just kind of what your inspiration comes from, whether it's overcoming your own injuries or just being around trainers for a super long time.
I was around trainers for a really long time, but truthfully, I actually didn't want to train athletes. I wanted to train people to stay in shape, stay healthy. I was a Biggest Loser coach. I'm still am a Biggest Loser coach. I got certified in doing all the Biggest Loser. I have my master's degree in nutrition, and I truly. I got a phone call to train a hockey player that was in Minnesota that was playing at a higher level. So I started training him, and it just kind of trickled from there where I started training athletes because then they heard that I was here and doing that. And then Kenneth McCoy came with me, and we started Athletic Empire, and it's just been a success from there.
If you weren't playing pro basketball out of college, do you think you would get into training right away after that, or did you consider anything else when you were done school, or when you were done?
A veterinarian.
Oh yeah.
I love animals. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I love being around animals, but it just wasn't the right fit and the right timing for it. So.
Well, you're letting the dogs out like right on cue, talking about being a veterinarian.
Oh my goodness, my kids are crazy right now. They're like, well, "What are you doing?"
she's zooming. She's got to get her own Zoom. That's what everybody's doing. All the kids and all that stuff.
I know.
We talked a little bit for the news about just the young athletes that you've gotten to train around here. What kind of joy do you get out of helping them get better in their sports?
It doesn't matter for what level, as what do they want from it. So when you come and train with us, we want to see, okay, do you have a goal in making 6th grade basketball, 7th grade hockey? What do you want from the training? And then we get there. If their goal is to play college, well, then let's focus on, and they're a junior or a senior, we have really good connections on helping get them into the next level. So we try and get them their speed, strength. We see what their weaknesses are. We help their strengths, and we move them forward and getting into that next level and helping them achieve their goals. It's just not on us. Of course, it's on them. And we give them the food to follow. We give them other things that they should be doing. And it's a collective effort to help them try and get to the next level.
What are some of the things that a college recruit needs to know about stepping on a college campus, being that student athlete in college, on and off the court, just the life overall,
The life overall is extremely different from, you went from being an all-star from your high school to being a bench warmer as a freshman, or maybe a redshirt, and not playing at all your freshman year. And you have to be able to mentally do that and physically do that. Going into a freshman year for me, and they wanted to redshirt me, I said no, because I couldn't imagine not playing in a game. I couldn't imagine not traveling to a game. And those are things that you have to look at physically and mentally, like how can you handle that? And just understanding how to go to class and how to pass a test and do all of your studying along with your practice for 3 hours. Then you have weightlifting after that. And then you have to go and eat, and you can't forget all your calories. There is a lot to manage, and it takes a little time. Freshman year is very eye-opening.
How much bigger of a commitment is it, both academically and athletically, going from you're in high school doing your high school classes and going to an after-school practice, and then going to a college academic workload? I know you get maybe a good pick of the classes to make your practice schedule fit, but the practicing and the weight training has to be so much more in college. How big of a jump is it?
Massive. And it depends on your coach, too, I'll be honest with you. I always said that my coach idoled Bobby Knight. She threw things. She was very aggressive. She was a very small woman. And she made me who I am today, if that makes sense. She made me understand that I can be pushed harder than I ever thought I ever could be pushed. And that was all mental for me. It's a very big jump, and you do have to be ready to be pushed. They're going to push you until you break, and they're going to see where your breaking point is, and they're going to see how they can mold you and train you and get you to understand their system. So the biggest thing is to understand how do they want you to be in their system for that sport. It's hard, but if you're willing to do it and willing to work, it's worth it.
Now that you're training athletes nowadays, do you feel like that coach kind of maybe reflects into your style the most, or is there anybody else where like you kind of pick and choose? Like I remember this high school coach or high school teammate, and I kind of want to trickle their influence on me down on other people.
My favorite coach was my high school coach, Jerry Cool. By far the most favorite I've ever had in my life. And it was because he was so laid back. And he was probably the best person I ever learned from. And because he could relate to the athlete, he could relate to everything that we were going through because he played too. So he knew exactly what, we were going to go through, what to experience. And we try and help our athletes right now to understand the next level, depending on what it is, football, we have somebody going Division I golf. Even that's going to be a physical strain. You have to be in shape to golf. And, we have basketball players that train with us. We have a bunch of soccer players. It's all just a mental aspect along with physical. You got to be ready for it.
You alluded to a couple kids that are coming up to that level right now. Who's the success stories right now from the SOS and the Athletic Empire up on North Hill that's been to college sports already after being in your gym?
I would tell you that all of our kids are a very good reflection on Athletic Empire, because they all come in, they all work their butts off. And, like Becca Cheddar, let's say, she is going to go play for GCU, Grand College.
Yep.
Yeah, GCU. I always call it GCU, so it's like, but she's going to go down to Arizona to play. She's, Division I golf. The biggest thing that we've been doing with her is now focusing on, she played basketball too, we got her ready, but her big push is golf. So first we look at that and you say, okay, what do we have to do to physically get her physically ready to be able to play and not get tired after 18 holes? How do we get her mentally ready? And we're doing that now currently, and she's been killing it, and going out and playing golf. I mean, she's our success story this year. Last year, of course, Mason Hedberg and Ben Bowl, they were with us. We had athletes going to NDSU to run track. We have St. Cloud State calling on us and a couple other places for soccer. We just had Vanderbilt and Ohio State calling us for another soccer player. I mean, when we're talking about some athletes that really want to go and play, it's a lot of fun. We put their numbers out there. We reach out to coaches for athletes. We give them their numbers, their 40-yard dash, what they bench, hang clean, how are they for their vertical. We find camps for them to go to, and it helps promote them, and that's who we really care about. Athletic Empire is just a step in their life, and we try and help that step to help them get whatever they want to do, whether they want to play varsity, and if that's their goal, then let's do it. If we want to get them to the next level to college, okay, let's do it. What do we have to do? And we work together with them.
What did Ben Bowl and Mason Hedberg have to say maybe towards the end of their time as high school athletes with you at the gym? Because they had to make that transition of redshirting this year for MSU basketball.
They did. I just saw Ben today. He was up training. It was good for them because they got to transition. They got to see what their coach wanted from them and what's expected of them. Then they also got to learn the aspect of school. How do you balance school along with practice? And they didn't travel, so they got to stay back and go to school and do their tests. But when they were home, they were on the bench and supporting. So I always think it's good for a freshman to redshirt because you get to be that supportive person for those seniors and juniors that are there for you and working hard. And soon that's going to be your role, and you expect that from those redshirt freshmen.
Speaking of training adjustments, what's kind of the differences in regiments that you guys maybe have to plot out? I'm not only talking about an athlete doing golf versus hockey versus basketball, just different age groups of people, and then others that aren't even athletes. They're just being there to be in shape.
We have gamers. It's fun because when we train athletes, so we do a 4-day elite, which covers everything, and then you do find out what sports they want, and we may do split out in small groups, and okay, you're going to focus on basketball over here, soccer over here, hockey over here, volleyball. We have all of those accommodations set up for those athletes already, and we'll pick 2 days out of the 4 days, and we'll do just skill work, and then we'll go lift. So it all depends on the day, what we're looking at. If they're having a really hard day already, we may actually pull away from doing lifting and agility and say, hey, let's go focus on your sport. We always ask them what their main sport is. If they have 2 main sports, then we split up from there. But we'll go towards an all-around athletic body and athletic workout. And then if they really are specific for swimming, let's say, you have to do, a lot of shoulders, different things. So it all breaks down. We have plans for everybody.
Something for you to tackle was the Rock and Roll Half Marathon in New Orleans back February, I think. What was it like training for a half marathon?
Well, this is my 17th one that I've actually tracked. we're running the 50 states right now and doing a half marathon in every state. And it's just like every other regime. You still have to lift. You still have to stay mobile, and you still have to move a lot. And I don't know, running's my life outside of the gym. It's my de-stressor. So I don't mind going out and running a few miles, 10, 12. I don't mind it.
I had to pick New Orleans out of your 17, of course, because I love just going down to New Orleans. I've been there 3 times. My dad's Harris membership card and all that stuff. When you were down there, did you get a chance to, I don't know if you could before running it and stuff, or maybe afterwards, a chance to explore New Orleans at all? Because it's a really fun place to be.
You know, we did, and we really enjoyed New Orleans. We walked around. I think we averaged a lot of miles walking and seeing everything. It was an experience. We were on the river a lot, walking and touring that. Yeah, it was beautiful there.
Yeah, I mean, my walking is through like Bourbon Street and a little bit of the river, and then our one bartender that remembers us, Dollar Bill, down at the casino, he's always good. And the fried oysters, I think they have at Drago's on that loop that they have down there, is something that everybody has to check out. And other than that, we've always been there around like the college bowl season. One time, like the Clemson Alabama Sugar Bowl that like wasn't the championship was going on, so that was wild seeing both sides of that. And I was down there for the weekend that the Saints lost with the terrible pass interference call.
Yeah.
So that was crazy to see, like, everybody from both teams so excited for the game after that, and how miserable people were on both sides. Like, win or lose, that's going to happen. But just the controversy of that call going forward, oh, man, people were just devastated at that. But, yeah.
We were down there, actually, when the women Final Four was going on in New Orleans. And we were in the bar when UConn won it. We were down there with Tarasi and those guys. And they just happened to walk in the same bar as us, and we got to hang out with them for a long time.
Yes, we had
celebrate their win.
My dad and sister went to Paradise Island in the Bahamas, right when they always have like that marquee college basketball tournament. And the kids, like, they weren't supposed to be on the casino floor, but they were definitely cutting their way through Atlantis and stuff. We couldn't believe the guys looking like giant beanstalks or whatever, these like among the trees and all that stuff. And my parents were My parents were there another time when New Orleans won the Super Bowl, and they were just up all night, and they probably would have been that night if they would have won the NFC Championship game. But, I mean, maybe this year, you know. But I don't know. Sara Dufner, really appreciate you doing this, and see you up on North Hill training the next athletes. Thanks.
Not a problem. Thank you for asking.